So we're going to teach you how to fix it.
Right. Okay.
April.
Yes.
You are what? You have what?
Endometriosis.
Endometriosis. And that affects lots of women.
A whole bunch of women.
A lot of women have that.
Yes.
And if you're a woman who's watching this presentation, know that endometriosis is a very destructive disorder of the woman's reproductive system.
Yes.
It damages the reproductive system when you can't have children, right?
Yes.
Becoming fertile.
Right. Thankfully, I'm not.
You're not.
I'm not.
You're blessed.
I am. I'm very thankful for that. But there still are other things that I still deal with, as far as I still have cramps, I'm nauseous, I still have pain in my legs. I did have surgery. I had 2 surgeries actually. My last surgery was 6 years ago, as of this past March. So after that, I've changed my healthy eating and my lifestyle.
You changed your diet.
I did.
Spell the word D-I-E-T. Diet. That's right.
I changed my diet, but because I went undiagnosed for so long, and I still have scar tissue and other damage inside, I'm still dealing with the symptoms of endometriosis, although they still don't see any tissue anymore.
Right. Now, a lot of the scarring sometimes takes place in the intestines, where you become constipated.
See, and that's my endo for short. My endo was in my bowels, so
it was in your bowel.
It was in my bowels,
Okay.
but I didn't know that because I thought that having irregular bowel movements was just something of myself, not knowing that I'm supposed to have frequent bowel movements.
Every day.
Right. So when I had my surgery, they found out that it was in my bowels, so that does make sense. That's why you're
Yes, so
saying
it makes
that.
you become constipated.
Right.
All right. Period pain again. A lot of women who have endometriosis have a lot of period pain.
Mm-hmm.
You get that still?
Not as much. I'm nauseous and I get pain in my legs. I don't get cramps as much. If I do surgery, I don't have it as much. But when I was younger, before I was diagnosed, I started my cycle when I was 9. So I had cramps for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
A long time.
Okay. Yeah, cramps for a long time. Now, were you incorporating supplements in your diet?
In the beginning,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah? But you're taking supplements now?
When I feel like it.
What do you
I'm being honest. I'm being honest. He told me to take it, but I haven't been taking it. He did recommend fish oil, magnesium citrate.
Very significant.
Really?
Yes. But I would give you magnesium glycerate.
Oh.
It's better, much more effective.
So what's the difference between?
Well, the glycerate is more absorbable in your liver. Could you take up that call? Don't call me on my phone, man. I'm on Facebook. Come on.
Oh, it ended it.
No, I know it's not going to end it. What should you do? Yeah, magnesium glycerate is much more effective because it's more absorbable to the liver.
Okay.
See what I'm saying? So I think you should try to take that.
So what other supplements besides that one do you think would be best for people that deal with female reproductive conditions?
When we go to endometriosis is because we have a saying that when you have or suffering from estrogen dominance, that's one of the main causes.
Right.
And Dr. Batts did say that too. Dr. Batts did say that endometriosis is caused by too much estrogen.
Right.
See? And it's not the natural estrogen that God put into your system, but it's the estrogen that is found in your foods, in your plastics, your plastic bowls, your plastic cups, the chicken and the cheese, and the eggs and the milk.
I stopped using plastic water bottles.
Yeah. That's problematic for a lot of women who have even fibroids also, and ovarian cysts, see, and PCOS. So we look at estrogen dominance, and a lot of the time what we do is we will have the woman increase of progesterone levels.
Okay.
To balance it out, because progesterone is a protector.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Right.
Of an excessive amount of estrogen. So once we do that, if we catch it early, if there is not enough scarring of the bowels or the tissues, we catch that early. We seem to repair endometriosis.
Okay.
You seem to have a lot of information
Knowledge,
on what to take,
right.
what not to take, what to do, and what not to do. So, like, not everyone is very fortunate to have someone like you in their lives.
Excuse me, can you all hear properly? See the can you all hear? Is everybody hearing well? Wonderful. Yes.
Not everyone is as fortunate to have someone like you in their lives. Like, thankfully, my dad was very into, living naturally and holistic use, and that was one of the ways that I was able to get off of all the medications that I was on, and take a more natural approach.
So how many drugs you were taking at one time?
4. Yeah.
A
When I
pharmacy.
yeah, pretty much. And then one day, I remember my dad told me my eyes were rolling in my head, and he was just like, "You got to get off all of the medication," and he made me stop taking it. And back then, someone told me that if I increased my doses of vitamin E, then that would help reduce the seizures and heighten my seizure threshold. So, like, my dad's famous saying was always like, "You take care of your body when it's young, it'll take care of you when it's old."
Very true.
So I'm saying all this because not many people have someone like you or my dad in their lives. So like, what or how do millennials and Generation Z's and X's and all Y's and everybody else, how do they get access to the information that you're giving us here today?
Each one teach one.
That's good.
See?
Yeah.
You're on your channel, right?
Right.
You're on your channel,
Yes,
right?
right.
See, you're teaching.
Right.
That's a key, each one teach one. Because I was an epileptic also, and I had a stroke at 32 years old.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I had a stroke when I was living in New York. And my stroke came from high blood pressure. And now because they had me on 6 drugs and told me that I was going to get another stroke
If we didn't take the drugs.
if I didn't take the drugs.
Right, yeah.
And I didn't take not one now. And all the doctors who told me I was going to get another one, they all died. They're dead. Dead and gone.
Wow.
You understand?
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm still alive with no high blood pressure. I didn't take another one drug. So that gave me the incentive to go into this kind of medicine.
Right.
Looking at the earth's creation. You know what I'm saying? That the things that God put on the earth for us to use for healing. But they're there.
Right.
You have to look for them.
Right.
So for every disease that we have, there is a herb that helps the body to heal itself.
Right.
That's the bottom line. That's what I believe.
Right, I believe that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Right, so you can fix your epilepsy.
Yes.
So you said that you was on 6.
I was on 6 medications.
Okay, so
I was on Zestril, I was on Benzyl, I was on a cholesterol drug, I was on aspirin, I was on the one for epilepsy, and I was on a beta blocker.
okay, so how did you know which ones to wean yourself off of
Yeah,
first?
that's a good question.
And also,
I wean myself for all of them.
So you
Yeah.
just cold turkey just took,
No, I wean myself for all of them. I was taking all of them at the same time.
and then you
But
stopped.
what I did was I went to a doctor who is treating alternative medicine. It's a Chinese doctor.
Okay.
And that's why I love Chinese medicine too. It's called African doctor.
Yes.
Right.
And what he did was he weaned me off these drugs. So I would go on a program. I love lamb chops. I love sloppy joe.
Right.
I used to eat at night time.
Right.
I used to eat up when they don't sleep.
Right.
So do all these negative things too.
Right.
And then I learned that the body heals when you're sleeping. That's why God created sleep. Jehovah God created sleep so the body can heal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your body can never heal if there is food sitting in the earth systems, the earth right here.
Patrick,
Right?
we found that millennials and individuals that are a part of the Generation Z demographic have difficulty sleeping because of technology and all of these other things. What would you say to young adults and to millennials that are struggling with sleep conditions because of their living or their work? What would you say to them to encourage them to incorporate sleep into their daily habit?
Let me answer
more?
the question this way. Before there was phones, cell phones, and TVs, and all these technologies, which is good, it's good. But although technology is good, it has a negative too.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? Now, people used to go to bed at what? Sunset. And get up at what? Sunrise. So they knew for a fact the older head because they didn't have no TV and no phones.
Yeah.
So there was no way of looking at television
Right,
and all these
right,
phones we have in our
right,
hands on a
right,
regular
right,
basis. See?
Right.
So they used to go to sleep early because between the hours of 8 p.m. and 1 p.m. is when all the hormones start regenerating. See? You know, the woman's hormone, the man's hormones. And between the hours of 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. is when your liver and your pancreas start regenerating. And between the hours of 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. in the morning is when your kidneys start picking up all the acid from the tissue of the body to push it into the bladder to be released as what in the morning?
First.
urine.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
you must pee in the morning.
Wow.
Wow.
And that's the reason why sleep is important. But because the slower, let me speak slower. All right. So because all these technologies now
Right.
invaded our privacies,
Yes.
we don't have a discussion around the table again with mother, father, children. That's gone.
Yeah, so
Right,
true.
right.
Everybody
Right.
take up their phone
So true.
and they go into their room and they just
To themselves.
and they
Right.
and they flick it. And then they will stay on that phone for hours, forgetting that sleep is important.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying, brother?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that is significant to teach our younger generation, because now we have a lot of younger people now is coming up with cancers at an alarming rate.
Yes. Yes.
And can you give us some statistics that you know about young people and cancer, and tell us what are some of the causes you believe are bringing that to pass in our generation?
Well, let me go back to my country, Grenada. Very small country. It's
Yes, sir.
133 square miles.
Oh, wow.
It only have 90,000 people. And 10 years ago, the cancer took over from diabetes.
Wow.
So the number one disease we have now is cancer in Grenada. Very small country. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And that's because now we are incorporating another man's diets. Because we were taught that when you're living in an environment, you must eat the foods that correspond to your bloodstream. That's significant.
Yes, sir.
So you have to eat what you grow and grow what you eat.
Yes.
And that's why the man who lives in Africa,
Yes,
he
sir.
don't get prostate cancer easy.
Wow.
But when he leaves Africa and he migrates into the north, into the west, he picks up the man's diet. And prostate cancer takes him over quicker, faster. You see what I'm saying, brother?
Yes, sir.
So it is very significant that people of the Caribbean countries on our color, we have to look at the foods that we grow and eat the food that we grow and grow the food that we eat.
Yes,
That is
sir.
very significant. Because the average supermarket in the Caribbean now is full of canned foods,
Yes.
Oh, wow.
full of TV dinners.
Wow.
And that is what the average American family eats on a regular basis.
Wow.
That's very true.
Sure.
So you must have endometriosis, you must have all these epilepsies, because not because of the trauma now, but because of these vaccines.
Yes.
It's being chopped into our babies, and all these chemicals or these heavy metals get into the brain and disturb the hippocampus of the brain, and all of a sudden we have all this trouble. Asthma is on the rise.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Yes, yes. My oldest son has
There you
asthma
go.
out of nowhere.
Cancer is on the rise.
Absolutely.
Diabetes is on the rise.
Yes.
High blood pressure is on the rise.
Yes.
Because we change the composition of the bloodstream.
Yes.
That's the key, brother.
Thank you, sir. Jewel.
So if you go back in the Bible,
Yeah.
which a lot of people don't believe in, prophecies of the Bible,
Wow.
you will see that the Moses said that your blood is what? Is your life.
Yes.
So he says to you, in essence, if you can keep the bloodstream clean,
Then your life will also be clean.
that's right, brother. The blood is your life. So you must keep the blood well.
Thank you very much.
So, my brother, that's the key, man.
Wherever you are, just give Patrick Dells a round of applause, because wherever you're tuning in from,
Wonderful.
That was good.
And
Jewel.
we have a breast cancer patient on the other side. Yeah? We got my breast cancer, somebody on the other side. Oh!
Hi, it's Julie.
Breast cancer, somebody.
Yes, yeah, you see.
Woo.
Let me just go. Come on,
Yes,
hey.
we got
Tell them what
space,
it
we got
is.
space on the couch.
You got space,
Thank
man.
God, so good.
Oh.
Yeah.
For those of you tuning in, you are watching Healthy Hearts from Out of the Walls here live on Facebook with It's Jubilee. Life's a Jewel. Master Herbalist Patrick Delves.
Yes.
And I'm April Christina. Feel free to send in your questions at the end of the program. Patrick Delves will be answering just a couple of questions, as well as some of the ladies here on the couch with us today. It's Jubilee. Tell us about your story and your journey through breast cancer.
Yes, so I didn't have the pleasure of knowing Patrick Dells when I was going through my journey, but you know, post journey is still important as well, ensuring that you stay, maintain your health even after you've been healed or cured. But thank God for our family herbalist that we did have, Dr. John Casey, who really helped during a very dark time, because it's a huge decision. And I remember just agonizing over whether or not I would go through with chemotherapy, not do any chemotherapy at all or radiation, and just have the surgeries and then do, eat properly, change my diet and all of that. And I decided to go with both. And what Dr. Casey said to me is, look, we know what we believe. We believe in God, right? I believe in Jesus. I believe in His healing power, all that, right? We understand that chemo, though, does kill cancer cells. The issue with the chemo, he said, is that it kills good cells, too, right? So that was the problem. It's not something I wanted, but I said, you know what? Let's go with that, and let's go with the herbal, right? So what I found is that as I was going to the doctor, they didn't want to talk about anything that was herbal. Dr. Casey, he hooked me up with some kind of, it's like stuff with broccoli in it. He gave me some kind of mushrooms from some end of the earth kind of tea. I mean, the stuff was expensive and it tasted gross. But, right, my dad was juicing for me. My mom was juicing for me, whether it's broccoli and cabbage and collard greens and kale and anything that was filled with like antioxidants and just able to battle those cancer cells while I was doing the chemotherapy. So people say, well, did you get healed by faith for your diet? I think it's both, because I never got sick. I started with my immune system at like a level 14. By the time chemo was done, it was a 0, but I never caught a cold. I never had to have an iron infusion. I was going to chemo and I was seeing people around me that had to stop the chemo because they had to get infusion treatments for other deficiencies that they had now gained because of the chemo. Right? And yes, I lost all my hair, my fingernails turned black, I didn't have no eyebrows and all that. But outside of the chemo and the way that I felt so terrible during that week, I was still going out. I was playing basketball. I was going to the supermarket. They told me don't go anywhere. You can get the flu. You're highly susceptible to all sorts of diseases. And I really do attribute that to the diet, to the fact that I was putting the right things in my body. And it was, to me, that was miraculous because it wasn't supposed to happen. So when I went to the doctor, I did not talk to them about my regimen because they would always talk against it. Multivitamins, don't take those because that's going to counteract the impact of the chemo. So don't. So I just stopped telling them because they would always say something negative. Yes.
Doctors, lots of them is not open-minded.
True.
And if they will open their mind to understand that the chemo is a poison.
It is a poison.
That's why this became black, right?
Yes.
And you can't fix a poison with a poison.
Right.
Just common sense. See? And they know that too. And that's the reason why Dr. Lauren Day didn't take chemotherapy. And she's cancer-free now 15 years.
Wow.
See what I'm saying? Because she's a doctor, but she know or knew the side effects of the chemotherapy. It don't fix nothing. And they know that too.
Of course.
They know that.
Right.
So what we trying to teach them is, if you're going to use a chemo, you know that chemo kills good and bad cells.
Right.
But there are things that we can use to keep the chemo killing the bad cells, while the good cells stay healthy.
And regenerate. Absolutely. Yes.
See?
That's what happened.
But secondly, they fight on nutrition. But the body functions on vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and enzymes.
Yes.
You must pop them.
Yes.
That's number 3. Number 4, if you are taking chemotherapy, we have to know what is the name of the chemo. So for instance, if you're taking Taxol,
That's the main one.
that's the main one to give you.
That's the main one.
We know for a fact that Taxol suppresses what? The bone marrow.
Yeah.
So we in turn have to give the patient a supplement
That's right.
that will keep the bone marrow healthy.
Absolutely. Yep.
See, but they don't know that because they were not taught about nutrition in medical school.
Right. Yep.
So when you go to a doctor who is open-minded and knows about nutrition,
Yes.
he wouldn't talk that kind of negative talk that they talk every day. Because the patient came to me with breast cancer, talking for 2 breasts, both gone. 2011, and the cancer came back in her lung now. And she's taking chemo from since February, still taking it.
Wow.
And they have to stop because the white blood cells drop.
Right.
Now if she goes to a doctor who is trained in nutrition to teach these others how it works, she would take these antioxidants that you did and keep the white blood cells healthy. So the chemo could do the job.
Right.
So that's why we give them NAC, NAC, glutathione. And these two together, what they do is they protect the good cells.
Yes, I believe that's what happened in my life.
I believe that's what happened.
Jubilee, how did it feel?
Yeah.
First, thank you for being on our program today. Jubilee, how old were you when you found out you had breast cancer?
26.
And
26 years old.
so you were smack dab in the center of the millennial generation at that point. How did it feel being a young adult, a young woman with this life-threatening disease?
Surreal and just devastating. And to add to that, no one thought it was cancer, right? They were like, oh, it's you might just have cystic breast, or it could be fibroadenoma, your breasts are just dense. No one, the sonographer, nobody. The doctors, the people, they even sent me home, because the other piece was that I wasn't yet 40, right? So this country has this thing where, check your breast when you're 40, right? So when I wasn't 40, and so they really were just kind of like, it's probably nothing. And then so for 3 months, I had this tumor, but I was walking around thinking, it's not so bad. And then when I went back in January, after pushing and listen, my doctor said I need to have this test done. So it doesn't matter how old I am, you need to do it. And when they did it, they had to biopsy it. They found it was cancer.
What did they do? Is CA 15.3?
No.
Didn't do that.
Nope.
Can you say that again?
Tell us what that is.
What's the test?
It is CA 15.3. It's a cancer marker of the breast. And a lot of the times it might be high. You don't have to have cancer, but that's a marker to tell the doctor that something is wrong in your breast.
No.
And say that one more time. A CA.
CA means carcinogen antigen. It's a protein they look for in the bloodstream. If it's high, the CA goes up. And that's how a woman will know if her cancer is either moving or declining. The higher the CA 15.3, the more active the cancer. It's like a PSA for men in prostate cancer. If a man has prostate cancer and the PSA start going higher, the doctor knows that the cancer is moving onto the capsule of the prostate gland into the bones. See? So that's what they should have done for you.
Yeah. No, they didn't. I was on the lowest of the totem pole just because of my age, right? And so I think that's something I want to encourage folks to do. Get your test and eat healthy, because the things that we used to call old people diseases and old people issues, you're finding people younger and younger with some of these really heavy health issues, and that's really why the purpose of this platform today is really to enlighten not just the older folks, but the millennials and young adults. Because I'm telling you, standing in that office, I would have never believed that it would happen to me, and there I am, mid-20s, dealing with that.
And Patrick, at what age do you suggest women and or men get a sonogram or some type of test for cancer?
What kind of cancer though?
For women, breast cancer.
Because the leading cause of cancer in America is lung cancer.
Wow.
Then you have colon cancer after that.
Yeah.
Then you have rectal cancer. And then you have pancreatic cancer, follow that too.
Yes.
And then you have in men prostate cancer.
Yes.
And then a woman with breast cancer.
Got it.
See what I'm saying? So you have to know what type of cancer. But the sonogram or the mammogram
Yes.
is important. But the mammogram can give you false negative and false positive also.
Wow.
That's true.
See what I'm saying, Dylan?
So at what age do you think an individual should begin screening their body for cancerous cells? Should millennials be concerned about?
Sure, because we have a 15-year-old with breast cancer, brother.
Wow.
15 years old, man.
Tell us about that.
You know what I mean? And came in December with cancer of the left or the right breast.
Wow.
15 years old. And she's in the group right now. So we have to look at brass straps.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have to look at a woman having an early period. Because of the hormones in the foods, a lot of these young ladies between the age of 8 and 9 having a period already. That is a common factor in breast cancer developing at an early age too.
Yeah, estrogen receptor.
Right.
Estrogen.
Yes.
No, that's what I have.
And so a lot of women have what we call estrogen receptor cancer.
Yes, sir.
And then we have the BRCA gene, the BRCA1 and BRCA2 gene. And a lot of doctors, what they do, if they find you have the BRCA gene, they take 2 breasts off.
Wow.
Because you're going to get cancer. But that's not true. That's false information again.
Wow.
Because if your mother had the BRCA gene,
Yes.
and you are eating the same way that your mother did, you're going to have the bracket junk, J-U-N-K, junk J.
Right.
And that's when it comes to the verbs. That's what I'm saying.
But it's
Well,
funny
you
that
heard
you,
it
it's
there.
funny that you say that because
Seriously.
I started my cycle when I was 9, and then my pediatric OBGYN put me on birth control pills when I was 15. And then when I was in my 20s, they thought that I had breast cancer. So when I was 26, I had to go for a mammogram because I had found lumps in my left breast. And then when I went to my regular primary care physician, she found it as well. And at first they didn't want to do a mammogram either. So she had to put in certain codes so that it can bypass the laws of me being under 40 to get it. And I had to get a biopsy and all of these things. And then they realized because I had my cycle so young, it was just regular fluid, but I had built up so much fluid because they didn't diagnose me properly because I was on birth control pills for so long without going undiagnosed. So it's funny you just said that because now I'm thinking this whole time, I'm like, do I have breast cancer? Do I not have breast cancer? Now I have to deal with endometriosis and breast cancer at the same time. And I didn't know how the two was really correlated. So you just kind of helped and enlighten. And for women our age to really understand that just having one condition, sometimes there's other things that layers on top of it because you're trying to take one medication to stop one thing and then it starts having pre-existing or other conditions to come on top of that. So it was very good that you said that.
Yes, and again, birth control pills contribute to breast cancer.
It does. It does. It does.
Because it depletes.
Right. Yeah.
It
Things that you
does.
need in the breast.
Yeah.
I think ultimately the major thing for millennials to get is that you have to listen to your body. You have to listen to your body. Aside from what the doctors are telling you, if you know something is wrong, advocate for yourself. I think that's the biggest thing. And eating right. Eating right is a huge part of all of why we suffer from so many different diseases and illnesses. It's what we eat. And if we're not eating what we need to eat, and we're not properly caring for our bodies, we're not getting enough sleep, and if we're not going to get checkups regularly, then we're going to have illnesses and diseases that sneak up on us because we're not doing the right thing for our bodies.
And if you're doing exercise, I mean, they're getting under stress. Oh my goodness. Don't stress yourself out.
No, stress is...
The children give you stress, put them out.
That's definitely a trigger. Put them out! Yes, stress is a trigger.
Sorry.
We gotta go.
Yes.
So being that we're all up here on this platform and we all have different conditions, what foods or what supplements can we all each take that we would all benefit from? And as millennials, whether it's men or females, so that we can all benefit from it, because you said that the color in your blood and everything are very significant and important in your lifestyle. So what are things that we know, like, hey, I know I need to have this in my regimen so that I can continue to have a healthier lifestyle?
It's a good question. And I go back straight into the scriptures again. Genesis 1:29. Jehovah God said, vegetables and the leaves and the fruits from the trees shall be for your meat. He is the creator of all things. So he knows for a fact what we're supposed to put in him. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that is what he gave us in the beginning. But because the flood came and there was no vegetation after the flood, man started eating flesh, not meat, flesh. Because meat is not pork and chicken and beef. You know what I mean? Meat is vegetables. Because God said meat in the beginning, flesh, not vegetables. So they're meat. So because of the flood, we started eating flesh foods. And he, the creator, said, oh, you eating all the flesh. Look at the good ones, don't eat the bad ones. But look what's good, look what's bad. Don't eat those that don't split the hoof and chew the cud. And don't eat the one in the sea that has no skin. We'll be eating shrimp.
Yes.
Lobsters.
Love it. Shrimp, yes! Give it up to shrimp one time. Brilliant. Baste it. Barbecue it. Give me it. Hallelujah.
Are we getting high? Are we getting high cholesterol?
Oh, glory. Come on, Patrick. Skip over the shrimp, man. Skip over the shrimp. Do it too much. Do it too much. Patrick, come on.
You know?
But yes, you're
And
right.
if you go into Ezekiel chapter 47 verses 12, he tells you again, the leaves is for healing, the fruits for healing. And you go back in Revelation 22 again, he tells you again, and the leaves of the trees shall be for the healing of the nation. He never said drugs. So he gave us a diet.
And in the beginning, he gave us an alkaline diet.
Yes. And Patrick, can you there are many millennials now who are getting into the natural, they're calling it the natural way, right? And we're speaking about the difference between alkaline and non-alkaline, and we really would love for you as a master herbalist, the Patrick Dells, to just give us a healthy lesson on alkaline foods, drinking alkaline waters and things of that nature, pH balance. Please teach us the way.
All right, but let's look at the urine, right? The kidney is the organ that deals with your alkaline acid balance.
Right.
Because as I said earlier, it picks up acid from the tissues, chucks it into the urine. So when you get up in the morning to urinate, your pH should be 5.0 to 6.0. Acid. Or after that, your pH is supposed to be 7.0, 7.45.
Yes.
See?
And can you define alkaline for us?
Well, alkaline have a pH of 7 and up. Acid have a pH of 6 and down. Now the saliva pH is what? 7.0, 6.9. Your pancreatic secretion have a pH of what? 8.0, 8.3. Because your pancreas produces alkaline enzymes. And in your intestine there's a pH of 7.8, alkaline. See what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So the only place that is acidic is the stomach. Because it produces hydrochloric acid. And because the stomach produces hydrochloric acid, that same stomach have to produce mucus to protect the lining of the stomach from the same acid that your stomach produces. So we know the acid is a bad thing. So if we take a battery from the vehicle with acid, and we take that acid out and we throw it in a pen, it's going to burn it up. So God knew why He gave us an alkaline diet. Because we were taught by Dr. Michael Thierry that if you can prevent acid in the blood, you will never get a disease. And toxins. So the body in its wisdom, when the body is too acidic, the body starts producing lots of cholesterol from the liver. And the purpose of the body have a lot of wisdom in it. It's the purpose of your liver producing lots of cholesterol, if the body is in an acid state, is to protect the arteries from being bored by acid. It is a protector.
You better preach it.
Oh, man.
You better preach it.
Jehovah God.
Come on, it says we're fearfully and wonderfully made. We are fearfully
But
and
in the
wonderfully
meantime, if the body is in an acid state, your body starts pulling calcium out of the bones because calcium is a buffering agent of acids. And once the calcium comes out, you start getting osteoporosis. Your teeth start shaking.
So everything's interconnected.
Everything is because the body must function in an alkaline system.
And it works to protect
So
So
tell us.
because we were taught at a young age, from infancy, to eat all the acid foods together. Proteins are acids, fats are acids, oils are acids, starches are acids. And because starches need an alkaline enzyme to break them down, they become acidic because of the length of time it takes to come out of the body. So the average person eating a starch and a protein together and say, I'm drinking alkaline water. You're drinking alkaline water, but you're eating acid foods.
Yes.
So the pH don't change.
Wow.
That's good.
Say that one more time.
You're drinking alkaline water, but you're eating all the acid foods together. Your pH can never change.
So basically, what you're saying, drinking that alkaline water ain't
Ain't
doing
doing
nothing.
nothing.
Ain't doing nothing.
No, man.
Oh my God.
So can you give us some examples of a diet where there's alkaline water but acidic foods?
All right, let me give you an example. If you eat a starch,
Yes.
the protein and
Such
and
as?
starches should only be 5% of your diet. 5%. Fruits should only be 20% of your
Like
diet.
what starches?
Potatoes, pastas, rice. They all start foods.
And 5%.
5% of your diet. And it should be complex carbohydrates.
So we have reached the end of our lives. We have reached the end of our lives. So
Patrick, like what?
5%, guys.
Especially as a runner, you know, you take a lot of that in to get your energy and all of that. It's like,
Energy.
bad. Like,
I would
no,
eat
in your
those
mind.
stuff with energy.
That's in your mind. You're thinking that's how you
Yeah,
get
like
there.
when you're running and you're an athlete, they tell you to re-up on
Carbohydrates.
your carbs.
Yeah.
So give us the truth.
Starch. When it gets into your intestines, it clogs it up because there's sticky substances. And starches is broken down in your saliva, right?
Yes.
Right. So if you eat a piece of potato, it's going to start to the sugar chains in your saliva. When that same potato gets into your stomach, it cannot stay in your stomach because the acid kills the amylase that breaks it down.
So what should someone...
Starches do not digest in your stomach.
So what should someone pair with a starch?
A vegetable.
A vegetable like what?
Like lettuce.
What kind?
Pork chop. Not
Does it matter?
Not the Roman lettuce. Though.
Right. That's what I was like,
Okay,
we have to be clear.
wonderful.
We have to be clear what
You talking about the Romans? No, they ain't no good. I'm saying.
So no romaine lettuce.
No.
Okay.
But you're looking at all the foods that are alkaline. So in our BioLife program, we have the foods that are alkaline and we have the foods that are acidic.
Okay.
So you can know to combine them. Because the pyramid diet that they teach us all the time regularly, eat a pyramid diet. Okay. So the pyramid diet is all your food in one plate together. In that diet is an acid diet.
Got it.
And it also sends conflicting messages to the enzymes.
I was gonna digest.
So the enzymes say, oh, all these foods in there, which one I'm going to digest first? You don't know, it's confused. So you leave them alone. See what I'm saying?
Because God is not the author of confusion.
Oh,
Right. Yeah, we don't need
Jehovah is not the confusion. So the average person eats starch and the protein together. They're good acid foods.
Right.
So the starch gets into the stomach with the protein foods now, and the starch, the acid in the stomach kills the amylase that breaks down the starch foods. So the starch moves, if eaten alone. And it goes into the small intestine, which is part of the earth system, and the pancreas now shoots a little bit more of the amylase to help to finish the digestive process of your starch in your small intestines.
So you don't get energy from that.
So starch do not digest in your stomach at all.
Yes, sir.
What?
And that's why you're always feeling full.
That's right. And the vegetable
From that
form.
moment
Anywhere, and then you feel hungry.
Protein have the same problem too.
Got it.
When you eat the protein food, chicken, fish, pork, beef, lamb, they're all protein food. When they get into the stomach, the same thing happens. The acid kills the protease that breaks down the protein, but protein have a backup called pectin that resists the acid. So your protein digests right here in your stomach, in the earth system. Now you eat a piece of protein with a piece of starch, and you get into the stomach, the starch can never move. You have to wait. So your fish, which take 12 hours to digest in your stomach. If you eat that fish with a piece of potato, that potato will take 12 hours in your stomach waiting for that fish to digest.
Wow.
Just 24 hours?
Fish take 12 hours. And once that starch is waiting for your protein to digest, your starch start fermenting.
Wow.
Yeast.
And causing bubbles to form in the stomach. See what I'm saying? And when the fish digests, then your starch moves, but it moves undigested and will slow up the protein. And that's the reason when you eat the starch and the protein, eat them 3 times per day, you have 1 bowel movement per day. Whatever the 2 means that. It's somewhere in the body causing havoc in your organ system.
Yes. So, Patrick.
Yes, my brother.
Patrick, sir.
Yes, sir.
For many millennials and for individuals within the Generation Z demographic, we hear what you're saying and we love the information. It's important for us to have. But we end up extremely afraid of changing our diet because it seems like more that we can't do than more that we can. So what would you say to a young man or woman that's a millennial or a part of the Gen Z generation about changing from a primarily meat diet to a vegetable-based diet as scripture explains?
Well, you know, let me answer the question this way, man. You can't stop people from eating flesh foods. It will happen, man.
But how can we transition?
What if people are...
Because we want to.
Well,
we want to live better.
What I did was, I love lamb chops. That was my favorite food.
Yes.
And sloppy Joe. You know sloppy Joe, man?
Yes, sir.
So I had to take at least 9 months
Wow.
to wean myself off flesh foods. And because if you don't take time with that transition, you can get trouble in the joints. Because the body's so used to this flesh. So you have to take your time. So if you're eating like flesh 5 days per week,
Yes.
you can go to 3 days per week.
Okay.
And then go to 2 days per week. And then 1 day per week. And then gradually come off the flesh foods. That's what I did.
Thank you so much. Now, we want to allow for one question from each of the panelists. Again, we have It's Jubilee here. We have Life's a Jewel. We have I'm April, Christina. And we have our master herbalist. We have our master herbalist, Patrick Delves, who you all can follow on Instagram at Patrick Delves, Delves.
And Facebook too.
And Facebook as well. So, ladies, we would like for you all to just ask Patrick one more question before he has to go and change another part of the world with this information. Oh.
Well, my question is, right, so if I am that person that tomorrow I want to make a change, what food, vitamin, supplement, right, what should I start to take immediately that's accessible? Now, Patrick, you use a master herbalist. We know you know how to find like some kind of green algae way back in the rainforest in Cancun. But we can't get there
but
right
this
now.
The hood.
Right? We over here in Brooklyn, you know what I mean? So like, what can I access, right? What would you recommend that I can access, like I can go to a health food store and get it, that I should intake on a daily basis if I want to start tomorrow?
Do the best you can.
Do the best I can. Okay.
Look at it right there.
Start here.
Green
Great.
foods. Start
All
with
right.
green foods.
Oh, that's basil. Jesus Christ. Patrick, that was too soon. I said tomorrow, Patrick. I didn't say now.
Like, this is good stuff.
That's good though. That's basil. That's good. That's good. That's good basil. Y'all should try it.
It enhances my mood right now.
April and Jewel, we didn't see you take a bite.
Come on.
April and Jewel, we didn't see you. We didn't see you take a bite. Come on.
Yes. All right. But now to make me want some pasta though, Patrick. Put it over there. Come on.
Just don't have any fish.
Come on here, Alfredo. Glory to God.
Jewel, go ahead. What's your question, Jewel?
The transition is, as I said before, you know, right now we're doing a 14-day cleanse of parasites and fungi and yeast. And my advice to a lot of the younger people, the younger generation, is start to do these cleanses on a regular basis. And especially with your family, it's very important. So I would start with a cleanse.
Okay.
And clean up the earth system. So you're looking at, before we answer your question properly, your large intestines, that's the earth. Your small intestines is the earth. Your stomach is the earth. And your pancreas is the earth. Right? So you cannot contaminate the earth. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if you're a planter, if your farmer plants foods in the earth system here with chemicals, and you ingest these foods, what will happen to you? You will get sick. So the earth is important. That's where you have to start on earth. To make that transition, right? Your liver is wood. Where does wood come from? Where does wood come from?
The trees.
No man, the root.
Dirt,
The
the
soil. That was multiple choice, man.
Your kidney is water. Your kidney is water. Where does water come from?
From the sea.
The earth.
Everything's from the earth.
Everything is from the earth. That's it. B.
Your heart is fire.
Multiple choice B.
Your heart is fire. Where does fire come from?
The earth.
The earth.
From the earth.
Right.
And your lung is metal. Where does metal come from?
The earth.
Comes from the earth. This is the
Yeah.
right
So
answer.
all these other organs, liver, kidney, heart, lung, depend on the earth
Okay.
for sustenance.
Right.
Wow.
So if you take care of the earth, right here, you're going to take care of all the others.
Yeah.
If you feed the earth right, the earth will distribute all the nutrients that all the cells need. From liver, kidney, heart, lung.
Got it.
Kidney, water, heart, fire. What all fire?
Water.
So the kidney control your heart.
Wow.
Heart is fire, lung is metal. What burn metal? Fire. So the heart control your lung.
Wow.
So if the kidney don't work right, and the kidney can't get rid of this here, water, he sends the water where? To your heart.
To your heart.
You get cardiac edema.
Wow.
And your heart is not a water pump. you can't move the water out.
Right.
So you send the water where? To your lung. You get
Get
pneumonia.
filled with pneumonia, yeah.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying?
Wow.
And the lung is metal, and your liver is wood. What cut wood? Metal.
Metal.
So once there's cancer in the lung, it goes straight to your liver.
Wow.
When there's cancer in your liver, it goes straight to your lung.
Yeah.
Because they work together.
Right.
They in balance like that. The moon, the star, the sun, they all in balance. God is great. Jehovah is the greatest.
Yes, he is.
Anyone in the moon, we have troubles. So
Right.
any one of the organs go in balance, you will have trouble somewhere.
Yeah. Patrick, we understand that there are certain times of the day, depending on the location you live in, where certain fruits and vegetables are not good to eat. And we haven't been educated about this, especially here in North America. So could you just briefly give us some information about here? We live here in New York, and we just want to know, like, what fruits and vegetables are good to eat throughout the day on a weekly basis?
That's a good question. Fruits should be only 20% of your diet
Wow.
Too much.
because they're cooling foods. They're not primary foods.
Yes.
They're tertiary foods because you have the primary foods, and then you have what we call the secondary foods,
Yes.
and then you have the tertiary foods.
Yes.
See what I'm saying?
Yes,
So
sir.
thank you. So the primary foods should be at least 60% of your diet,
Which are
which is the nuts and the seeds and the grains.
okay.
See? And then you have the green leafy things, which is the secondary foods.
Yes.
And you have to look at those because they can make the body become too cold.
I need to get
Yes.
my notes.
Whole
I need
life
to take
together.
notes right now.
We'll be sharing, and then your tertiary food. Your tertiary food
It's the
are
fruits and the proteins now.
okay.
Okay.
And there should be only 20 to 5% of the diet.
Okay.
See, because the green leafy things are more alkaline. So
Yes.
they keep the blood pH at 7.0, 7.45.
Yes.
See?
Yes,
So
sir.
they are the what we call the secondary foods. But fruits should be eaten in season, brother.
Yes.
So when the season comes around, we have oranges come around in February, from February to March.
Yes.
We eat oranges. When they go out of season, we don't eat them no more. Till they come back again in February again. See what I'm saying? That's significant. Secondly, you can never eat fruits in the morning time. Especially when you are living in a hot climate.
Wow.
Because they can make the body become too cold.
Wow.
And the fruits in abundance can make you eliminate minerals and make you become malabsorbed.
Patrick, you've shared so much information with us today that we're gonna have to just have you come back and do some in-depth communication with us about some of these things.
Because I have a
So
question that I want to ask.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that fruits come in season.
Yes,
but
sir.
because of Monsanto and all these devils, these demons I call them,
yes.
they have these fruits in every month.
Yes.
They're not in season anymore. So corn is a seasonal starch food.
Yes.
But we haven't corn all year round now.
Wow.
And because of the seed that you're planting a seed and don't get a seed.
Right.
So all the seedless stuff, stay from those.
Wow.
They're terrible for us. But fruits are so cooling that you're not supposed to eat them in the morning, especially if the temperature is hot. You have to eat them between the hours of 11 and 5 when the temperature is hot so you can burn them on fuel because sugar goes up and out. Salt go down and in. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are in the world, if you are on this live right now, we want you to share. Please, please, please. Let me tell you